Okay, hi everyone. Okay, so we are at the last lap of the training, and at this time we're going to be talking about professionalism. That's workplace professionalism. So we're going to be discussing. This is more like a very short training, but we're going to be discussing very detailed things that help with success on the role or in the workplace. So these are the basic things that we're going to be talking about in this session. Please, as has been our rules, always take note. Then, when you have questions, please write down your questions. We'll take all the questions at the tail end of the class, so we don't get to go back and forth trying to sort out that is trying to sort out ourselves in the training. Just write your questions. When we're done with all the subjects that we want to talk about, then we'll take all the questions together. So I hope in less than an hour we should be done with this section of the training. So now we're discussing on the workplace professionalism. So and in this place we're going to be considering the workplace ethics, service delivery model, and also some general tips that needs to be handled. And that's the all that we're going to be talking about in this particular session, which is the last section of the training. Okay, and so now we'll go ahead. We need to, while we're having this session, why is it important that we take this? Why is it important that we take this session? Now, there are reasons why most times as graduates who are just starting off in the workplace, of course, we have backgrounds and places where we're coming from, where, of course, we have some cultures. Now, I want to give you an instance, right? Um, where we're coming from, possibly, maybe we've been more like, let's say, let me give you an example this time, and let me be more specific. Take, for instance, we are princes and we're princesses where we were. Maybe we are the son and daughters to royalties. And now in the workplace, there's a difference. This is work. You're coming to work. You're not. You're not in the that is in the spaces of your palace or the kingdom or whatever it is. So where we expect, of course, there are going to be different expectations. So that's just what we're trying to do now. We're trying to help us rewire our minds and the rest of that. Possibly expectations will be different. The expectations where we that we used to have maybe previously is not the same thing they're going to see in the workplace, and how the basic things that we can also do that will help us with succeeding in the workplace. So these are the things that we this training will handle. Now, the workplace in itself is a place where we come to work, right? We have come to work. We're not coming there. We're not expecting to come and lounge there. We're not coming there to come and vibe. We're not coming there to come and play. We're not coming there to come and do something. We've come to work. Now, what does it mean? We are coming to work, to do work, right? I'm not coming to come and start putting physics or putting the Newton's law. No, that's not what we're doing now. But in the general sense of it, we've come to do something. We've come to add value, right? We've come to add value, possibly to the society through our organization. That is what work is. So, mean that we have come to add value. We've come to do something. We've come to solve a problem. We've come to solve a problem. So, if you're solving it, if we come to solve a problem, it means that we are prepared, right? It's just like a fight. We've come to do something. I'm not saying that engaging in physical fights. No, just we've come to make a change, make a difference, improve a process, improve something, provide solution, solve a problem, right? That's exactly what the workplace is, a place where we create solutions, right? That solution could be about products, it could be about services. So, but that is what workplace is all about. So that's not a place where there's no play in the workplace. There's no, we're not coming there to come and do pity party, friend, or somebody should come and help me. No, you're coming there to work. That's why in the first instance, these trainings are done to build competence, and we start implementing what have been learned. So that's workplace. A workplace is the place where we've come to work. I'm not going to come and start giving definitions. No, I just want us to understand what we are doing. Then, of course, there's an environment in that workplace, and that environment is always something that we can depict as place of collaboration, right? Where we collaborate to solve something. So somebody is a salesperson, somebody is an accountant, somebody is the front desk in customer service. Another person is more like the digital person or digital marketing person, and that handles both the email and restaurant. So we have come to collaborate to solve problems for the customers of the organization, right? Collaboration happens in the workplace. So in the environment, the workplace environment is collaborate. That is what we see there is collaboration, right? Goal oriented. That is another one. The workplace environment. Everyone is goal oriented. We've had an objective is set. Everyone is a member of a team. Like we work as a team and we're going to achieve results as a team. So it means that we are goal oriented, right? So in the workplace, we are collaborating. So we are collaborating to achieve goals, right? That's the second one. Then we'll talk about we cost driven. So we have a vision. The organization has a vision, and our goal is to achieve the vision of the organization, right? So we're collaborating to achieve. We're collaborating to achieve goals, which is ultimately tied to the vision of the organization. Then it is talent driven. It is why you and I are going to be working to ensure that we achieve, to ensure that we collaborate. So we and I will collaborating to we collaborate by I bring my skill sets, I deploy my talents, right? So we collaborate together. You bring yours, we collaborate together. Then we achieve work towards a particular goal, which is tied to the vision of the organization. I think that makes sense. So in a nutshell, we're saying that there's collaboration in the workplace. There's goal. There's it. So it's at the workplace is goal driven or goal oriented. Then there is vision, right? There's a vision, which is the organizational vision. Then we also there's talent deployment. So we're deploying our talents to accomplish the goals of the organization. Okay, that said, now there are other things that we have within the workplace which I want to talk about. Of course, these are things that conducts within the workplace. We talk about sincerity, honesty, cooperation, support, empowerment. Of course, there's flexibility. There's and then we'll talk about mutual respect as well. So I'll give that just on the sidelines. I just wanted to make mention of that. Okay, now let's just go ahead to talk about some of the basic things also that we see in the workplace. Now, in workplaces, there are structures, right? So the workplace is not just anywhere everybody just does anything anyhow. There are structures. So we're going to be expecting, of course, the executives in the organization. Then, then we're going to have we have our fellow there's our fellow team members, our colleagues, right? Our colleagues, but those colleagues are not just the colleagues have our colleagues in the workplace. Of course, they have different ranks. So, but when we have people we started off together with, right? We're on the same level. Then we have people who are captains, possibly like team leads, unit leads, and the rest of that. Then we go ahead to have supervisors and managers, right? Then we have HODs and directors. So these are the various types of authorities or levels of authorities in the workplace. So talked about the uh, we being on the same level. We talked about captains, and then we have team leads, unit leads, we have supervisors, managers, HODs, and directors. So these are the people that we have within the workplace. So there's authority. Now we'll go on to talk about the reason why we are having this conversation in the first instance. Why, why we're considering authorities in the workplace. So now let's go ahead to talk about that. Because why? There are rules, there are governance. The workplace have governance, right? There's governance for the workplace. So now, and this workplace is governed by rules. The workplace is governed by regulations. The workplace is governed by policies. The workplace is governed by procedures to implementation to work. There are procedures to work. There are procedures to service delivery. There are guidelines, right? So five of them: rules, regulations, policies, procedures, and guidelines. So the workplace is governed by these five key things: rules, regulations, policies, procedures, and guidelines. So these five key things govern the workplace. So why is it necessary that we consider these things that we just talked about? We talked about authorities in the workplace. Now we're talking about governance. Now, okay, let me even buttress more on this right. There are rules where, of course, every organization have rules, and for us here we have rules, we have regulations, we have policies with which we operate or by which we operate. We have our procedures to work. For going to be working, there's a procedure to work or to implement or to follow. Like possibly, let's take for instance, if we're going to be hiring new talent, we have procedures, right? In this program, of course, I think the admin also says something about process something on procedures. Have procedures to handling or to doing whatever or to intakes, right? Then there are guidelines as well. Okay, now let's go ahead to talk about why is all this important. Of course, there's a work model right now. So this brings us to work model. So for every work that we're expected to do, for in every workplace, there's a model in place with which it is being done. So there are instructions. So you have to follow instruction. So as employees, we have to follow instruction to doing a particular thing, right? So this is the way it is being done here, right? So it's not like, yes, maybe you might have one or two experiences elsewhere, or maybe you've had opportunities to work elsewhere. Now, how it is being done in A is not practically how it is being done in B. Yes, it might be the same thing, but it's important to wait to get instruction. This is how we do it here, right? You follow that instruction and get it done. Then there's a reporting line, right? Now, there's always a reporting line in every organization, so you know who to report to when who to take instructions from, right? So you're not just taking instruction from anybody, but you're taking instruction from your direct line of your direct line of authority. Then their authorization. That's to do certain things. You need to request for authorization. So it needs to be authorized. Then, of course, there needs to be approval. When you request for authorization, approvals are granted. Now, there are some instances. Let's take, for instance, we need to do something in the branch and we reach out to head office for approval, right? When we get approvals, of course, we will still need the authorization as represented as the officials, just floor officials. We still need the authorization of our supervisors when we implement these things, right? So even though we've gotten approvals from the head office, but while it's being carried out, we require the approvals. Then sometimes even before to even send out those approval requests to head office, it goes through the route of we do it. We send to the our supervisors. Then our supervisors go ahead and communicate with the head office. Okay, that said, then there are expectations in the workplace, right? There are basic expectations in the workplace, and the expectations are responsibility. So now, when we talk about responsibility here, now you have the job descriptions that are going to be drafted for you. So job descriptions that are drafted is your responsibility. It is by which your KPI will be drawn, right? It is from the responsibility that has been handed to you that your KPI will be drawn. Then you're accountable, of course, to the responsibility based on the responsibility that's given to you, accountable, and we are expected to adapt, right? That's the third one. They're expected to adapt to the workplace environment. Then you're also expected to cooperate, right? Cooperate with your colleagues, cooperate with every other person in the workspace. So when we mean cooperate, you don't frustrate the process. And there are ways of frustrating the process by pulling back the hand of time. Possibly something that you're supposed to get done in 15 minutes, you are doing it in 30. So that's like drawing back the team, and it shouldn't be so. So cooperation, you have to speed up, and at the end of the day, that's be in sync with the team, with other team members. Then I'll go ahead to talk about sense of respect, of course, where we expect that there will be respect, mutual respect for every of the team members. Of course, respect is reciprocal. Okay, that's practically the what we have for this session, where we talk about the workplace and the basic expectations that are required of us. I already said that this particular session is going to be very much brief. Now, let's go ahead to talk about ethics in the workplace. Ethics. So now, the ethics themselves, ethics are a set of values that seeks to drive in the importance and benefits of that's dignity in the workplace. That's more like workplace. There's work ethics in itself are guiding organizational rules. Workplace ethics are guiding organizational rules, regulations, principles, standards and values required for anyone who is going to be working in that place, right? So you have to abide by the ethics of the organization. So if you're coming, if you're as joining us, it means that you have to abide by our rules, abide by our regulation, abide by our principles, standards, and values. So it's very much important. So in the places where our values do not align, then it means that um, definitely you're not for us. Then you have to think of moving elsewhere. So workplace ethics are actually guiding principles, guiding organizational rules, principles, regulations, right, and standards, as well as values with which every single person who works for the organization are governed by. Okay, that said, let's go ahead to talk about the reasons why there are ethics in the workplace. Because you might be saying, possibly for someone who is fresh, say that this is new, and why should I be governed by principles and should I be governed by workplace ethics in the first instance? Now, take for instance, if there are no ethics or there are no rules in an organization, and I decide the resumption time is by 9 a.m. I decide to come by 10. I decide to come by 9:30. I decide to come by 11. So if there are no rules of course of what punitive measures are in place for attendance, it means anybody will just do whatever they like. So the rules will practically state if if I come 30 minutes or 1 hour late, or if I come by 2 hours late, or for a 9 a.m. Resumption time and I'm resuming by 1 p.m. So I definitely there are rules. So the rules is that if I resumed half day, then I'm getting a half pay for the day. Then of course maybe if I do that consistently, I'm going to get a query and the rest of that. So if that's the rule, then it means that every time if A does it, B does it. As long as A does it and gets the same thing, gets their query, B, C, D do the same thing, they will get it's still the same. So it's a standard for every single person. So if you come 30 minutes late, possibly you have to explain yourself to HR why you came 30 minutes late or you came 1 hour late, and there's no notification, there's no reason, you just decide to come in late, and there was no upfront notice trying to reach out to HR and let them and notify them that you're running late and the reasons why it is so. Or you decide to skip a whole day without showing up. This is one of the major things that always happen where, of course, with freshly graduated people who join organizations. So just decide, today I don't feel like going to work. You just stay. The same way it was done, possibly maybe in a tertiary institution where you just wake up and you feel that you are not fit to go for lecture today. You don't just want to go for lectures today. That's not the same thing as the workplace. Remember when we started earlier when we were talking about the workplace, and the workplace is the place where we've come to add value. So you don't add value today and decide to be in absentia tomorrow, or decide to just maybe go elsewhere, go visit a friend the following day. So if it's going to be in your contract. It's Monday to Friday or Monday to Saturday. Now, whichever one it is, so at the end of the day, you must avail yourself those days of work. So if the conditions are not suitable to you, there's no point signing the contract in the first instance. So that's the essence why there are ethics, right? In the first instance, because if you sign the contract, you are guided and you are bound by the rules and regulations of the organization, except you're on your way out. That's just then we'll go ahead to talk about one. The second reason is attitude. Ethics is going to ensure that the workplace attitude is in unison, right? Someone is not giving a different vibe out, so everybody comports themselves. So it means that we can have a workplace attitude. We can have our attitude. Of course, it can be attitude of excellence, right? Attitude of excellence and customer friendliness to customers. So we are guided by the specific attitude that is required for everyone who works with us. Then character. So it's in our character to behave in a certain way, right? So if we work for this or this, so we know that okay, it's in our character to do this, and if it is not in our character to do X, Y, Z, then we should not be found um, in such institution in the first instance. Appearance, right? Ethics guides appearance. That's the reasons why. So for instance, if we've been told from our contract, the code of dressing is always communicated in the contract. So when if you're asked if the contract states that the code of dressing or the mode of dressing is corporate, so we don't just wake up one day and decide to just wear three-quarter and polo, and possibly maybe like a palm slippers to the office, right? So if that's not exactly, that's, we have a code of conduct here. So that's it. Then possibly maybe as a male, I decide to dye my hair green. I decide to dye my hair blue, and I wear big necklace that is dangling. When I wear big necklace, possibly, or big bangles all over. So like their acceptable appearance, and possibly for the female, of course, this is the same thing, right? For every, so we have an appearance the way we decide we have chosen to appear before the society. Then we'll go ahead and talk about mutual respect. So we respect ourselves, I respect you, you respect. So it's a two-way thing. As a supervisor does not disrespect subordinate does not disrespect the supervisor. So it's a two-way thing. Then teamwork, which is sixth on the list, teamwork. So ethics guides teamwork, ensures for teamwork. So you're not running as a loner. We're together. We're in this together. We're doing this together. We're accomplishing the results together. Remember when I started earlier, I talked about us having our different talents. We are deploying our different talents to solve this problem, or to solve a problem for the public through our organization. That's what we're doing, right? Then ethics also ensures for productivity. It means that because we have our ethics, I have my contract, and I'm guided by the ethics of the organization. It means I'm also going to ensure that I work. I ensure that I'm productive, and my productivity, I have my KPI, which is what determines that productivity, right? So, and the ethics also, it's from that ethics also that we, even if A is not productive, B is not productive, then there are rules to determining the productivity, right? These are the things that the ethics would help to implement. So that's why we have ethics in the first instance, to help us determine this productivity of the workforce. Then communication. So the ethics also states or confirms ways where we can communicate. So I don't just sit up and just shout or start, or maybe I need to send an information, and I just go and maybe it has been required that I need to send this via email, right? And copy XYZ, copy my supervisor. Maybe I'm reaching out to my fellow person. Maybe I'm reaching out to IT, I'm reaching out to accounts, and I need to send a mail. I don't just go and start talking to accounts. No, I will send the mail. That's what it demands. I have to send the mail and copy my supervisor. I'm sending a mail to accounts, I'm sending a mail to whoever it is that I want to send to. And at the end of the day, I'm copying my supervisor. Then they are in the know of what I'm doing part time. So that's exactly what ethics does. It creates a clear channel of communication, a clear line of communication, both up and both that's upward, vertical, and horizontal. So both that's what ethics does. Then cooperation within the workspace. I think I've discussed something about that when I was talking about teamwork. So if somebody is not running as a loner, everyone is working together, we're cooperating together to achieve a certain goal. Then at the end of the day, we're also talking about organization. So ethics helps everyone remain organized that's within the workplace very much. So I think I've discussed so much already on that. Okay, then let's move on to talk about the values in the workplace. The key drivers and key values in the workplace. And on the list here we have honesty, right? Honesty, which is a very important tool in the workplace. Honesty. Then we have integrity. So we are honest in our dealings in the workplace. Every single thing is transparent. Don't just say I'm not seeing, or nobody's seeing what I'm doing. Possibly, every single thing is being monitored. The emails are monitored. If you must know, she need to let you know that. Then integrity. So, and we don't go ahead and start reaching out to customers behind this and saying maybe you're doing other things. So every single thing as workplace. So you just ensure that there's honesty, there's integrity. Your integrity is as, so don't keep your integrity as stick. Then adaptability is like I've talked about that. You're dependable, so such that your supervisors can say, okay, I can hand this task over to this person. They're dependable enough to deliver on that. Responsibility, I've talked about that. There's a sense of responsibility that has been assigned to you, which is your job description. I talked about self motivation, which is and confidence is expected, professionalism, and positive attitude. These are basic values that are required of you as a professional in the workplace. Okay, Now, while we've talked about that, I want us to now discuss on misconducts in the workplace. There's some misconduct, some things that are deemed as misconduct in the workplace. Now, one of them is a divisionist, right? So is a divisionist, someone who you possibly more like tail bearing, trying to divide the team. You're saying that you the goal is always to cause division among the team members and cause confusion. And at the end of the day, the workforce get demoralized. So you demoralize team members, you all cause division within the. So if these are misconducts within the workplace, for some organization, this may not be right. For some organization, this may be, but for us here, it's a major red flag. Then stealing, of course, stealing is a misconduct. Stealing from the organization or stealing from the or from the stealing from the customers, they are major form of misconduct. And then stealing itself also, that which brings us to the next one, which talks about sabotage. So stealing itself is also a form of sabotage. Now I want to give you an instance, right? So take for instance someone who is brought in, let's say as a driver, and you are to the driver gets to buy fuel for the vehicle. Now, if you are to buy a fuel of, let's say, 40,000 or 50,000 naira, and you decide to say, okay, let's slash it a little. Instead of buying the budgets that I'll be given to you for 50,000 naira, you go ahead to buy fuel of 40,000 naira. Now you save 10,000, right? And you say, oh, nobody will know. So now, of course, there are metrics to knowing all this. Then, if you're supposed to use it to run around all the whole day, right? Or all the whole day, or this fuel is supposed to last for 2 days, and you're coming back after 24 hours to say that the tank is empty or the tank is dry. Now, at the end of what do we like? That's more like sabotaging the organization without. Sometimes we don't even know that this is what we're doing, but it's important to know that when we steal from the organization, we're actually sabotaging the organization. What we're supposed to be achieving, right? If I was supposed to be achieving more, 100, if let's say you are supposed to achieve 100 with that, but by stealing from like for instance where there's 50,000 and it is stole 10,000, the driver stole 10,000, so it means that practically it has reduced productivity by 80%, by 20%, sorry. So what we're having, instead of 100, we're having 80, right? So you bought a fuel of 40,000 instead of 50,000 naira. So practically it reduced the productivity by 20% without even knowing that that's what it's going to do. So now, what does it mean? It means these marketers are stranded because we need to still have to push for approval again to get another budget. But the budget for this is just within for 48 hours. It's for 50,000 naira. And we spent 50,000 naira in 24 hours. So what's going on, right? The marketers are stranded. They're not doing anything, meaning our productivity is being halted. So this is how it can spiral. And at the end of the day, there is a problem. Now, take for instance, then maybe it's still on the same issue of fuel, and you're supposed to get diesel for the procurement person is supposed to get diesel for the organization, and is supposed to get like 1,000 liters of diesel, and you're getting because possibly maybe you feel can collaborate with the other people in the store and the rest of the and you get diesel instead of getting 1,000 liters or getting, let's say, 900 liters of, so 100 liters of diesel is just missing. So now what we're supposed to do, that's more like 10% of productivity of the workplace reducing, right? Because the budget of that 1,000 liter possibly is supposed to span for the week or for span for 2 weeks, and we're reducing it. So if we reduce it by 10%, we're reducing productivity by 10%. That's sabotage, right? But sometimes people do not know that by stealing from the organization, we're practically sabotaging the productivity of the organization. That's what it means. Then we'll go ahead to talk about lies, deceit, insubordination. So when all this spill out within the workplace, these are forms of misconduct in the workplace. Okay, I think I've said so much on that. Let's just go ahead and now consider the expectations that the employers would have, that the organization has from you. The, the organization expects you to remain, that's offer standard services to its customers. The organization expects you to abide by its policies, by its rules, and by its regulations. So total compliance is what the organization requests from you, and it's very, very much important that you abide by that. Then the organization also expects you to learn fast, become adaptive, adapt so fast, and become dependable. right? Such that you can certain responsibilities can be entrusted, or more responsibilities actually can be entrusted to you because you are honest and you have your integrity intact. Okay, then willingness to work and go beyond and above in order to achieve um, basic or significant or allotted tasks to achieve the results that have been assigned to allotted task and which are particularly tied to you. Okay, that said, it brings us to a close on that second part, which because we've so far we've talked about the workplace. Now we've just concluded the workplace ethics. So on this particular one, let's talk about service delivery models, which of course we're going to be seeing this in the workplace. The service delivery models, of course, these are standards. So when we talk about service delivery model, so these are standards and framework of course, and when we talk about standards and framework, they're just a set of principles. So it's not like we're blowing too much grammar. So these standard and models or frameworks are a set of principles and policies like that constrain or that tends to monitor the standard by which the standard of service that is being delivered to the customers or by which the employees operate within the workplace. So that's just what the model is all about. So the service delivery model is a set of principles, a set of policies, constraints, and standards that ensure that every employee is guided with regards to delivering a service either to customers or delivering a service directly to the organization. Okay, that's that. I'll go ahead to talk about other other things with regards to service delivery models. So now, in regards to service excellence, so I think we've talked earlier about when we talked about service excellence, but this time around we're considering from a different approach. So talk about friendliness, that's timely response, KPIs, requesting feedbacks, and the rest of the activities. And these are the things that we discussed with earlier within the week when we had this conversation. So, but yes, it's as an employee, there are basic things that is required of you. So that is to always keep at the back of your mind while you're providing service. There's always a culture to work, right? Stay within the culture of the organization. Now, quality of service. So you don't offer something that is beneath, right? Beneath what you expected, beneath the standard of what you expected to do as an employee of the organization. Then we'll talk about passion. We want to see that passion. We want to see that you are passionate to work for the organization. You are delivering the exact results. You're passionate about what you're doing. It's not like you're being forced, right? We want to see that willingness and the passion to deliver on the job. Then engagement, your experience, the excellence, and as well as professionalism. Okay. That said, so when it comes to service models, it's imperative to understand that there are, like I said earlier, that there are processes and there are procedures to work like within the work, whereas within the work area or in a workplace. There are processes and there are procedures, and also the service and delivery model is guided by a service level agreement. Now, take for instance, if we're dealing with customers or we're dealing with clients. Now, so there's the service level agreement, and as employees, we need to stay within the service level. So, because now, service level agreement practically means the promise that the organization makes to its customers. So this within that, there's a level of service that we are not going to go below this quality. We're not going to go below this. That's the service level agreement that the organization it makes a promise or makes a covenant with its customers or with its clients. So as employees, it is expected of us to maintain that service level agreement for that organization. That's on behalf of the organization to the clients or to the customers. So these are practical things that we have talked about here. Okay, I think that's that. I said earlier that this is going to be a very short one that will just help to give us basic orientation of the workplace. Then I think the ones on the sidelines that I want to just talk about, some other rules that are on the sidelines, but that they are very much important that we note that. So they are under the general. So we have some rules, that basic rules that it's imperative that you take note of. Now, of course, as an employee, your key performance indicators will be in your contract letter. So in that contract letter, pay close attention to it. Pay close attention to your key performance indicators. right? That's the main thing. You need to know about what your key performance indicators are. Of course, every other thing that we've talked about thus far are important, but your key performance indicators, so that you can ensure that you're meeting your performance is top notch all the time. So don't go doing other things and leaving your key performance indicators outside of what you do. Okay, then I think um, hold on, there are other things I need to talk about. Okay, I think that's more like a summary on the remaining. So of course you take out time to understand the basic the basic details about the workplace, about the place that you have found yourself or the department, how things are run in that particular space. So whatever it is, at the end of the day, you provide possibly you can provide feedback, you can provide suggestions on how things can be improved on in the that's within your department thus far. Okay, that said, please can I get your questions thus far on the things that we have discussed so far? So remember that in this very brief training, which is the conclusion part of it, we talked about the workplace. So now we have a good understanding. That's the right mindset of towards the workplace. So discussed extensively about ethics, that's workplace ethics and standards. Then now we've just concluded on um, service delivery models. So there's service delivery model. So understand that whatever we are supposed to do, there are systems in place that guides what we are doing. The systems, processes, procedure. So if a work is to be done, there is how an acceptable standard, an acceptable procedure to which the work is to be done, right? A timeline to which it is done, how to do this work it it's practical. All these things are there. So it's important that you follow the procedure, follow that has been set out. Okay. So if you have any questions, I would like to take that because we're in the concluding part of the training. So we've discussed thus far, and this brings us practically to an end of all the sessions where we'll now have to begin to conduct the assessment. Okay, Okay, so when we talk about penalties for misconduct in the workplace, so there are a lot of, for instance, there are different for the different misconduct. I cannot start saying this penalty for this or penalty for that, right? This is just, of course, the penalties for it will be in the contract, right? It's not something I can just come and start saying out here. But for every single one of them, there for every single of the misconducts, the penalties are listed in the contract that you will be signing. So that's all I can say. But I'm not going to come up publicly and start talking about the penalties for um, each of them. Because remember, the contract is personal. So at the end of the day, you read it. If it's okay with you, you can go ahead and sign. If not, you don't. Okay. Um, Another question says, are we to retake the assessment for those? Okay, the ones you've already taken, that's especially for those on Monday, that's the service delivery excellence. No, you're not retaking it. You're not retaking it at all. So if you retake it, it's invalid, right? Don't retake the assessment. If you have taken the assessment for the service delivery, if you take it again, it's going to be invalid, right? So leave it at the way it has been before. Then just ensure you take the remaining for that's for the remaining for which we have discussed about. Okay, let's take the next question. Okay, so Killian is asking about handling workplace conflict. Okay, um I'm going to address this from two perspectives, from the supervisor's perspective, right, and from you as like from a peer to peer, right. So I would say these are peers. That is, you are in the same team. So handling a conflict amongst yourself, I would rather say, because all this that we've talked about in the first instance, I started off to say that the workplace is a place where we've come to deliver value, right? We are serving the customers, which is practically the public, right, through our organization. So, and we have come there differently, right? Bringing our talents in order to work as a team to deliver on this. So, having that at the back of our mind, I understand that there are going to be personality issues, like people have their baggages. Of course, sometimes you just stay and another person is being nosy and the rest of that. That's a different thing altogether because there are some aspects that we can start talking about, maybe like workplace politics and the rest of that, right? Those things could stem up, but handling conflicts perfectly well, I'd rather say if there's an issue with, if you have an issue with someone, or an issue comes up with someone, and it's something that you can properly manage, or you have the energy to reach out to such person, not a confrontation, not a confrontational outreach, but this time around, because you want an amicable settlement, you can discuss with that person and let them know what they have done that is not right or that does not sit well with you. And if you don't see any need, possibly maybe you just want to move on, then you can just go ahead or and move on without paying close attention to that. But if this is a major conflict, now when we're talking about conflict of interest, now from a different perspective, now take for instance, when I'm talking about conflict of interest now let's say for instance, um, a client came through you, right? And it has to be credited to you. And now another team member is trying to, from the back door, take such account so that they can be credited to them. That's a difference. So that's a conflict in the first instance. So now how can it be done? I rather say at this instance, you're not going to go and start reaching out to the person because they know what they are doing first. Or possibly maybe it was the client who reached out to two people at the same time, or reached out to more than one person at the same time. Then and now this account needs to be credited to someone. Now, I think you have your evidence. Just walk up to your supervisor. You have a supervisor. This is somebody that's above the team, that's coordinating the team, that's in the right place to resolve whatever conflict there is. They have experience. They know how to resolve such issues, right? They have experience. For instance, if I'm to resolve, I know how I will handle such issues. I've had those experiences before. So that's nothing for you to worry about. But if that conflict is something that you cannot handle or you cannot resolve by yourself, I would rather say reach out to your supervisor, right? So when you're speaking, when you're approaching your supervisor, you're not approaching from the place of I want to report, I want us like come and settle this matter. It's getting out of something. Like, no, you're reporting that because you want peace. You don't not like you just want the whole place to be lit up in fire. Okay, I think I've spoken extensively on that key, and I think it's that should be clear enough for you. Then, say if you have an extra skill, would you like to market with a client that does okay, that does not concern the organization? Okay, I think no, this I think if I understand you very well, Williams, I think if you're saying this, if I get your question properly, maybe you're doing something different, right? Maybe you're doing something that is different from what the organization does, and you decide to, and you have a marketing skill, but you want to go ahead and deploy your marketing skill. Then that's something that is different. Um, that's different for you. So possibly maybe you are doing a different, you're assigned to a different role, and you still want to run some marketing gigs behind that. So I think that's something that is different, but it does not need to, as long as it does not conflict with the interest of your organization, right? As long as it does not conflict the interest of the organization, then I think it's not much of an issue. But as long as it conflicts with the interest of the organization, then just practically stay away from it. That's what I would say. So you don't, or maybe you decide to work for the competition of the organization. That's practically a no-no. So because at the end of the day, the competition they will reject you and the auction rejects you. So that's going to be leaving you with practically nothing. So I would rather say that's not so because if I try to understand your question very well, that's going to be more like even though I'm working, like take for instance, I'm working as a service rep, but I received an offer to work as an affiliate marketer for a different organization. That's the how I understand your question, Williams. So, but if that's not it, maybe you can re-ask your question so that I can work on that. But I've just answered your question based on affiliate level, where you are working on a different role, but you are doing affiliate marketing for a different organization that does not conflict with what your organization is doing, right? So I think that's basically that's that. So, but if that does not answer your question, maybe you can just reframe the question so I understand it better and answer to it. Okay. Then Grace, so you mentioned about KPI in the course of teaching. So what? Okay, KPI is key performance indicators. You have job description written in your contract, right? So you are expected to deliver what because now, for instance, now you when the interview is properly done, your skill assessment is okay. This is what can be done properly well. So based on that, we've not no, this is something that you have said you can do for the organization. And at the end of the day, a you have your description drafted out for you. So that is what you are going to do, right? So that key performance indicator, if you say we are supposed to, now let's say if you are supposed to reactivate 10 dormant accounts, now if 10 dormant accounts is your monthly target, what you're supposed to be doing every month, we're not expecting you to do something less. So if you do 20, like just two dormant account out of that 10 that we give it to you, so it means that you're just meeting 20% of that section of your performance, right? So, but the 10 dormant is just one of the major things that you're going to be doing. So let's take, for instance, you're going to be reaching out. He expected to reactivate 10 dormant accounts. He expected to make, let's say, 100 calls out through the month to prospective to prospects, right? Then you're supposed to, that's the 10 dormant accounts. Then you're supposed to, let's say, bring in additional 5 new accounts in a month. So if all these are the target that have been assigned to you, so you see for each one, now for the accounts, for the dormant accounts, how many did you reactivate? For the new accounts, how many did you bring in? For the calls that were supposed to be made to existing customers, how many were you able to make? So all these things form the key performance indicators. Then there are other forms of assess, other details, other things that will be given to you. So all these things, based on all what you're able to achieve, these are what forms your performance for the month, right? Then at the end of the day, they go in a long run, so like your 6 months and the entire 1 year, so the organization can evaluate your performance for the whole year, right? So this is what will now determine, oh, are you due for promotion? Are you due for that? So this is the key performance indicators that practically determine if you are due for promotion. Promotion practically for some is 2 years, 2 years and above, for 2 years, 3 years, and the rest of that. Okay, I think that said. Okay, Faith said, what do you do when the employer breaches the contract? Okay, there's specific ways to handle such. Okay, so I may not understand when you mean by breach of contract. Um, Possibly, maybe you could cite examples with breach of contract. But I would rather say that the rules, there's a contract that has been signed. A contract is a contract which was signed, possibly signed between you and the organization. But I believe that there's a proper way of handling that, which you go to the HR to lay your complaint. I think that will be that. But I believe that no organization would definitely reach a contract with the staff when there's no commensurate. Remember, the option is a legal entity, right? So there's no commensurate action that was executed by that employee. I believe no option would want to breach such contract. So to breach a contract practically means that there's something that the employee must have done. So because nobody, the option on its own is a legal entity. So and they understand the essence of the contracts that they presented to the employee in the first instance. So possibly maybe if I get the instance with which you are asking your questions, maybe you can cite examples. I could get a clearer view and respond to that. Okay, that said, let's go ahead. Morgan says, okay, KPI means okay, all right, okay. Okay, so Emmy says, is KPI measured weekly or monthly? The KPIs are practically for every month. They are measured monthly, but they are weekly assessments, right? It's not that it's not just practically done. They are weekly assessments, right? They are weekly assessments. They are monthly assessments. They are quarterly assessments. Then they are that biannual assessments. Then we have annual assessments. So which is assessments that are done weekly. Assessments are done monthly. They are done quarterly, every 3 months, every 6 months, and every year. So at the end of, so this is what determines, okay, that you successfully worked with the auditor for 1 year. So these are the things that most that is being done for the organization. So the performance are measured. We're not waiting until the end of the month or the end of the of 3 months or the end of 1 year before assessment is made. The assessments are done weekly, week on week, to ensure that you are in line. So right. So this one's help you to stay on track. It's not when you get a query, you don't start saying, but I was not told, and the rest of that. So you are getting your warning on time. That's why assessments are done on time, are done weekly, and you get that. Sometimes it's 2 weeks, once in 2 weeks, or but it depends on the schedule of the HR. Okay, I think that's that. Okay, finally. Um, I think Cupcake says, please can you list the expectations the workplace again? Like, okay, I've talked about some of the basic things that is expected of you in the workplace. Okay, let me just go get those lists again. So maybe possibly maybe we'll just use that to close. Okay, so I think I was saying something earlier um, when it comes to the expectations in the workplace. Um, but there are a lot of expectations. I already talked about ethics, like all these things form part of the expectations. But where I was now making a reference, and I made some specific reference with regards to what the organization expects from you, that you abide by the standard that has been set, right? That is one. Abide by the standards that has been set, standard for service delivery. This is what is expected of you to do and how you are to do it. So you abide by it. I'm just replying to what your questions, Cupcake. So you just take note of that. So abide by the standards, their policies, rules, regulations, right? Just 100% compliance. Stay compliant to the rules and the regulations of the organization. That is that. Then for the customers, of course, you have to just respect the customers each every time. Respect your fellow colleagues. Respect, of course, is mutual, and it is a two-way thing. Then expect it to be adaptable. Adapt to the workplace. Adapt to the workplace. Be dependable, right? Do your job in such a way that your supervisors can depend on you, can depend on you to hand responsibilities to you, and so that practically, because that makes you grow fast in your line of work. Of course, we expect honesty, we expect integrity while you work. Then we talk about willingness to work, not like a pushover. I need to push you, need to drag you, like you need to be told what to do. No, in the first instance, of course, the part of the selection process, these are things that are going to be looking out for by the time we start the interviewing process as well. Then collaboration. I talked about collaboration, that you're a team person. You're a team person, not a loner. You're not possibly maybe you just like you're getting results. You don't want to guide ensure that your team members are carried along. But just now when we're talking about this, you cannot just when you're getting results, it's okay to get results, but it's also okay to also guide your team members to help them also achieve the same thing. But I'm not saying that because you're doing well, then you should hide your capacity to do well. No, that's not what we're saying. Practically, you're already setting yourself to become a team lead, because if you're getting better results and you can guide your fellow team members to get the same result, you're practically setting yourself to become a team lead in no time. So that's what it is, right? Then finally, we talk about uh, self motivation and that confidence. So that these things are more like the basic expectations that is expected of you. I think that should be very much enough if I get that. If you get that clearly, so I think we can sort this out here. Okay, so in the absence of further questions, I think that's all that I have taken so far. Addressed all the concerns thus far. So please look out in the section at least let's say before 4 p.m. Yes, max 4 p.m. The admin of the group is going to drop the link, so you can just go there and do your assessment. There's no timeline. Practically the timeline to the assessment should be before 12. That's 00 hours Sunday, so that by Monday the schedule will begin. That's the interview schedule will begin. All right, I think that will be all for now. It's been awesome training all through the week with you guys. So enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for your